So if I'm not appreciated, I'm not going to work hard. At least I'm going to do the bare minimum because I know you don't appreciate me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in positions show that because they also don't know how to, they're not great managers of people, right?
Right, but I mean that's your choice. You are you not meaning Joseph. You meaning
Nah, yeah.
anybody. You are free to choose to be mediocre. If you don't feel appreciated and you're going to express that experience via not going above and beyond because of your feelings of appreciation and what should be in the world that you want to live in, you are free to
Mm-hmm.
do so. But actions come with consequences. Human beings love actions and hate the consequences or try to avoid them. You can't avoid a long term you can't avoid the consequences of a long term action. It's not going to happen. So
Expressions of love, 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 love.
what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, wide world? Welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Expression Indeed, and I'm very happy that you are still rocking out with me. And today I am talking with Joseph Holmes. Joseph is the creator of Don't Limit God and host of Don't Limit God podcast, available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and YouTube. Link in the description. The Don't Limit God podcast, where their slogan is "We share ourselves and our resources to inform, inspire, and empower people to live their most purposed life," is really dope. So make sure that you go check it out. Joseph says, in a world of compartmentalized identities, my focus is to help others understand that the most important identity is the identity of self. Aside from Don't Limit God, that's DNTLMTGD, Joseph has published a book, Don't Shoot the Messenger, a little book to life, available on Amazon. So click the links in the description if you want to check out any of that. I definitely enjoyed this episode. We got to do a deep dive into the rights and the wrongs of some of these social trends that are popping up in our society today. We also got to explore parenting briefly. We got to explore what it means to live in a society that is lacking the guidance from the elders that it used to have, and a litany of other topics. I definitely think that you will enjoy it. Like and subscribe if you have not already had the chance. Check this out. 2, 1. Hello, wide world, and welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Expression Indeed, and I am here with Mr. Joseph Holmes, and we are going to explore what we think about some of the aspects of our current political climate here in the States. Joseph is North Carolina resident. Shout out. One of my brothers is from Durham. You know what I'm saying? And I've been to a bunch of places. I've been to Cookout. I'll say that. If you know, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so shout out North Carolina. Thank you, Joe, for coming. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Listen, I'm right around. I'm not in Durham, but I'm in that area for sure.
Oh yeah, that's what's
Yeah.
up. That's what's up. Yeah, my man Mayday is out there. He's a rapper. Yeah, I think I shoot. The last time I went to North Carolina was the Outer Banks. We went to the beach.
In
It's
there.
nice out
It's
there.
man. Yeah. If you pick the right beach, you good. Right.
Yeah, it's nice out there, man. Because, um, I mean, it's not too many restaurants, but it's plenty of grocery stores. So you just cook your own, and um, it's really like you could take nice long walks without really running into anybody in the summer.
Right.
It don't matter when you go out there to the Outer Banks, and the houses are freaking huge, especially if you get one that's right on the water. So my whole family did a whole family thing. So it was like 12 of us in one crib, but we had space. Everybody had a room, you know. It's really dope. I don't know. Shout out to North Carolina. I'm just trying to big up your state, you know.
Oh man, listen, I don't claim states, man.
But let's get into this thing, man. Some of the recent political or politically charged changes that I've seen. At least one of the biggest ones is this thing around the language that we use every day.
Hmm.
From the invention or reinvention of what they're calling microaggressions to the pronoun usage when it comes to the confusion that was introduced via the non-binary and trans communities. No shade. The concept of hate speech, which I personally believe does not exist. There's no such thing as hate speech. There's speech and there's hate, but hate speech, in terms of how it's being used, like it's being used as if it's defined. That's what I mean by it doesn't
Right.
exist. It's
Okay.
everybody can have their own definition or example of hate speech, and that same example said to somebody else would not be taken as that. So that's what I mean by it doesn't exist.
Hmm.
So there's that, and then the widespread misuse of the term phobia, fat phobia, transphobia, homophobia, all of these phobias that are they're not. It's not a phobia. It's a blatant misuse of the term of the medical or psychological, I guess, term phobia.
Yeah.
So what do you see out here in regards to the language that we use, and what's kind of your opinions on it?
So I'll start big, right? And so there's a thing called holism, right? And so it's basically every entity is an entity in itself inside of another entity, right? So we're all a whole, you know, we're two people, right? I am me, you are you, but even together we're a whole. So separate we're a whole, together we're a whole in a bigger picture. And I think that's really what this is, right? It's, I think it's like almost trying to restart culture, right? In a sense of, or at least by bringing in confusion. Because ultimately, language has always been a barrier. Communication has always been a barrier, right? But now, or at least I'll say, so I'm 35, right?
Okay, I'm 30.
So when I was a kid, right, community it was still a thing, but the internet also hadn't blown up at that time.
Okay,
And so you had community. But then when the internet blew up, community shrunk because
right.
I didn't have to talk to my brother. I didn't have to talk to my sister. I can talk to some kid, 50 miles away, 50,000 miles away, right?
Yep.
Which brought about an increase of individualism, which is good, right? Because I do think, in the past, people weren't allowed to be themselves.
Okay.
But also with anything, right? It's the extreme of it
Right.
is
Okay.
with that. Now that I am myself or an individual, I see myself as an individual. We still have the nature to want to be in a group. So then we create, I don't want to say create, but for lack of a better term, create things that distinguish us from others, right?
Okay.
So going into like non-binary and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily a problem if you can understand it, but like you're talking about with phobia, right? We're using words that really come from a diagnosis, right? And we're using them in common language like we actually know the language. And so then that brings about more confusion. And it's really, personally, I just think that it's people trying to figure out who they are by adding more or associating with more things that's going to distinguish them from someone else.
Okay.
But human nature is to be within a group. And so it's like, and really, I would say that's what the confusion is, because as much as you want to be an individual, you still want to be within a group. And particularly in the US, identity, even in the past, was tied to association.
Yeah. You have this sense of belonging that
Right.
is very natural, and it's even biological in terms of evolution,
Hmm.
because um, with early human pre-writing, right? Pre-writing human, pre-record keeping. Uh,
Right.
if you were separated from the tribe, let's say you were excommunicated from the tribe or from your peoples, and you were sent out into the jungle, you died. There was no, you didn't go out there with a whole bunch of clothing and weaponry and medicine and camping gear, and no, you were just kicked out, and so you died. And so, over, because obviously there's a lot of debates on how long human beings have been human-like,
Right. Yeah.
but over a long period of time, that became known that if I get separated and if I don't belong to anyone, then I'm dead, or I'm doomed. I'm doomed. So yeah, no, that sense of belonging is definitely ingrained in what we're seeing today in a large way, for sure. Were you trailing off there, or did you have more to add?
Nah. So, well, it's like it's one of the topics that's it's deeper than that, right? But also,
Yeah.
it's to go deeper is just to bring out more confusion, right? Because then you have to touch
No,
on
no,
so
no.
many
Let's
other.
go. Let's go deeper. I can keep up. I'm just,
Okay. Not so that's really what it is, right? It's still the sense of belonging, but also saying, I'm like, okay, so let's say I'm black, right? But I'm
okay.
also a
Right,
man, and then I'm
right,
also a father, and then I'm also,
right.
a husband, and then I'm also right. But I still want to
And I'm
be
also
within the group,
35, and I'm also, yeah.
right? So all these things are true, but that doesn't necessarily have to be my identity. But for a lot of people, it is. And then, so when you have all these associations and you truly base who you are off the associations, there's going to be natural conflict. Right? It's the idea of, let's say we've known each other all our lives, right? We're friends, everything. You
Okay.
know me. And then if I'm pro-choice and you're pro-life, right? And that breaks up our friendship, that makes no sense.
Right.
If you've known me this whole time.
Right. And so that creates the feeling of betrayal,
Right.
which it's not real betrayal, but it's like you're betraying me because I thought we believed the same things, which is a silly belief, but I did. I thought we
Right.
believed the same things. And now that I realize that you're your own person, and and you can evolve differently than me, even if we grow up in the same spaces, um, I feel like you betrayed something in me, or you betrayed me personally, and chose to do so. It's almost like I would feel like you chose to betray me. Um, which
Right.
again is almost like, well, where did that come from? Like, how is this even a phenomenon that we feel this way when our friends change their minds? And I think it has to do a lot with what you're interested in, because if you're only interested in, let's say, um, what your group identity is,
Right.
then it's really easy to feel betrayed. But if you're interested in bettering humanity and in bettering yourself,
Mm-hmm.
then you might look at that and get curious instead of feeling bad about it and feeling betrayed. You might be like, really? You think that way? I wonder why. Let's have a conversation. Let's find common ground, or let's see if we can find common ground. Like let's have no assumptions at all. And
Mm-hmm.
and it might make you more curious. But if all you're interested in is, again, my group identity, like, because like we look at the privilege phenomenon, this
Right.
this this whole idea that because of your group identity, you automatically have privileges that others don't. And and if you're not hypersensitive of that so-called privilege, you are oppressing people. Simply by thinking something or by saying something, you are oppressing people, which is, in my opinion, preposterous.
Oh no, I
It's
agree.
wrong. It's ridiculous in the worst way. And this, yeah, in this day and age, it's really easy to fall prey to being like, okay, the right thing to care about is my group identity and other people's group identities. But like you said, is that's like almost like a setup for this conflict and this feeling of betrayal or this feeling of being oppressed or accidentally oppressing, right? Because we also have, and this is just an example, we have a bunch of white people now who are like, who will get up in front of people and the first thing they say is, I recognize that I'm coming from a place of privilege. It's like, man, say your point. Say your speech. Don't.
Yes.
I'm not gonna
No
tell you how
sympathy
to say your
points here.
speech, but man,
Right. Yeah.
it's a little weird, bro. It's a little weird in my from where I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No?
For that, it's like, don't try to preface something you're about to say, because now I'm going to be listening more intently, almost really to debunk it, right? But again, right, language. And so even going back to the what I was saying about pro-life and pro-choice, right? It's not even the fact that we think something different, because you won't even see me in that. You will just see pro-choice.
Right.
I'll just see
Right.
pro-life, and not even
You'll
you.
identify me with a group.
Right.
And you won't hear the real life me, the
The
people
person I
use the word
know, right?
nuance and the yeah, like you won't really see like who I am in this moment. You'll just see what you associate with the group that I um, have identified myself with by saying that I'm
Well,
pro-life or saying that I'm pro-choice. You only see that I'm a part of that group, the pro-life group. And you know what
mhm,
happens? And this is also partially biological, so I don't say this from a place of blaming people for this.
right.
But what happens is when we do that, when I associate you with just a pro-choicer, for instance, I associate you with the worst example that I can think of a pro-choicer automatically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's never the opposite. I never automatically associate you with the best of whatever I identify you as, especially if I disagree with the thing. But even if I don't disagree with it, it's just that you're a part of this group that has this other person in it that I automatically put you in there, right?
Hmm.
To get a little personal about it, I automatically assumed that the MAGA hat, the Make America Great Again um, phrase, was automatically racist because I associated Donald Trump with the worst of rich white men automatically. And because I did that, now I'm not a Trump, I'm not whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
identifying with a certain group called Trump supporters these days. But the dealing with the language, right? Make America great again, and feeling like I'm a part of one group and he's a part of another, and his followers are all a part of another group. I automatically saw the hat and saw the phrase "Make America Great Again" as a racially charged thing, when it doesn't. It's on the surface. There's nothing there about race, and then looking deeper, if I bring it to race, then that's my own assumption. But
mhm,
something was not willing to look at it like that. Like there could be assumptions that like I could be wrong. Something wasn't, until I would say until I started to wake up to my own mistakes. Right? It was like super automatic jump
Oh yeah,
racism.
absolutely. Like, so your experiences matter, right? And that's kind of what it is. It's so same, right? So for me, when I was a kid, I didn't realize this, right? But when I would say the last 3 or 4 years, I realized that the way I grew up was different from most people, right? So as a kid, my mother, my grandmother, they always gave me space to be myself, right? They never told me to do anything. Like, obviously, you have like chores and stuff like that.
Right.
But as far as like who they wanted me to be, never said a word. They would just tell me, listen, I trust you know what you're doing, and they would let me do it. And so I've never really had anyone tell me what to do. right? And so growing up like that, I grew up unassociated, right? Meaning that I really didn't associate with any type of group or anything like that. I was
Yeah,
just
that is
me.
unique. That's
And
very unique.
so,
Yeah.
and obviously, there are drawbacks to that because like my social development wasn't on the same level as my peers because they were more into the group things, right? But it always allowed me to be free to be myself, right? And so I have this thing where I say like I don't believe in loyalty, right? And I don't. But in the same term, I'm also not looking for it. Like I believe that if we're true and if we're authentic, then everything will work out, right? Don't hold on to something that's not yours, right? Or that don't want
Okay.
you, and things like
Okay.
that, right? And so what I realized was a lot of people don't necessarily have an individualized identity. Now we want to be alone and we want to be to ourselves and we want peace and stuff like that. But we really, if you took all your associations away, right, and you're just left with yourself, like who are you?
Yeah,
And
that
so
would
most
scare the
people
shit out of
don't,
people.
right? Because most people don't know that and they've never had the time, right, to do that. And also they didn't grow up in a place where they could.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people come out and automatically expectations, like you need to do this, have this, that, specifically like in the Black community, 18, you need to have your whole life together, right? You get 25, you're like, I never knew anything. And I still don't know a lot now. Right?
I mean, and it's earlier than that, right? They're asking you in 10th grade, what's your 5-year plan? Right? You know what I mean? But now keep going.
And so because of things like that, right, people automatically say, okay, I need to get with a group of people, or at least I need to have an identity, right? If I don't know who I am, they're going to tell me, well, you're a man, so you should do this. And you're a woman, so you should do this. And this is what a man does, and this is what a woman does. And you're Black, so also this. And when you get to, if you play sports, where you're an athlete, so you should do this and this and this, and this is how an athlete acts. And this is how, band or whatever whatever you take pleasure in, right? And so naturally, things that people really like and they don't really identify as, they just like it, they tend to bring on it as an identity because now you're in it and there are people with you. And so if I don't know you and I see that you play sports, I'm gonna say, well, you're an athlete. And you're like, nah, I play sports. Nah, you're an athlete, right? Because I don't know you. And I'm not trying to get to know you. So I'm just going to generalize you by your associations. And so then if that keeps happening, naturally you're going to take it on because then you're saying, okay, so this is how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're getting into things like sexuality and stuff like that. And
right. And Pandora's box is open. Yeah, absolutely.
right.
And with the, sexuality piece, which is happening younger and younger and younger and younger as the years go by, and the internet gets more and more free and
Right.
stuff, at least in the Western world, right? And skirt. What it do, everybody? Hopefully you already know what it is when you get this interruption in the middle of one of the Expression of Love podcast interview episodes. It is that time again, people. What time is it? I'm glad you asked. It is now time for the Expression of Rhyme, the segment of my podcast where I interject a rap verse into the episode that touches on one or more topics that my guests and I are engaged in. And man, do I have a verse for you all today. I really like, just as a side note, how depending on who I'm talking to, right, and how deeply we get to go into the topics, sometimes the lyrics they just come on a different level, with a different vibe to them, and I appreciate that. I like that. So make sure that you comment your favorite line below in the comments section. Like and subscribe if you have not already had the chance. And check this out. Check it. Back at the data to chatter matters of MAGA hatters. Throw in a dagger and blasting back at the fact detractors. Hoping to gather a vaster pack than the masses gathered. Who lacking facts that could back up half of their stats and accusations. This is why I love having conversations that makes examining the issues with some contemplation attractive to my brain and mind and develops patience so I can identify the root of why we want to be patients, fetishizing mental illness for a group identity, discarding hard work and promoting infidelity, refusing to uplift the next generation mentally, readily causing conflict, claiming oppression plentifully. Those looking through the same lens see the same thing and usually don't acknowledge when the scene is changing. Diversify what you consume and your brain brings well-rounded perspective into the game, kings. What is hate speech? To me, it don't exist. Opinions come no matter how loudly you throw a fit. Don't make yourself into a victim. Listen, go and get the facts behind your thinking and you might not have to throw a fist. Wisdom has to be studied like it's a subject. Read about it, practice it until your sunset. Become the reason people see the good in some specific souls in this world, and you will leave knowing your son's blessed. And shout out to Joseph for today's conversation. It inspired the lyrics I'm putting into rotation. So pass your favorite line around like it's a blunt. Show them how we get down on the expression of love. And as usual, back to your regularly scheduled programming. World, right? We're seeing a lot of negative effects of this group identity politic, and not even just politic, but group identity minds conditioning. This way of life that revolves around your group instead of revolves around what you can contribute, what you can do, and what work you want to do in your lifetime. And I think, honestly, bro, I think we have left behind the goodness of doing work and serving, because serving is hard, right? You got to manage yourself. You got to manage other people sometimes, depending on what kind of service you're providing. You have to sometimes create your own avenue when every market every new market that pops up in faster and faster times, that market is automatically saturated, right? With other people trying to clout chase and do the same thing that the first person did. And that's difficult. And I think with more and more comfort via technology, we're getting more and more afraid of hard work and being frustrated and being in pain, which we can start to see that people don't know what fulfillment is. Fulfillment is when you have the suffering and the frustration and the fear and the unknown, and you deal with that, and then finally you do make it across the finish line to the known, to the joy, to the excitement, to the trophy, or to the triumph of some kind. Because sometimes you don't get a prize, but you'll feel it on your deathbed. You know what I'm saying? You'll know. And that phenomenon of more and more comfort, more and more group identity, more and more groupthink, it's having some negative effects. One of them being, remember the Me Too movement and the believe all women rhetoric?
Yeah.
Where we had this believe all women, as if women don't lie, as if it should be really easy to convict a man of rape or get him fired for harassment or something, as if that should be really easy to do. That's not sustainable. And yes, there are predators out there. That doesn't justify predatory behavior or anything like that. Right. But it should not be super easy to get somebody convicted for something that will not only put them away for a long time, but if you know anything about prison, rapists don't have it easy in there, especially if you did if you're accused of doing something with like children or something like that.
Right.
And if you didn't do it, I mean, that's gonna really mess you up. You know what I'm saying? But we had this whole movement, believe all women, Me Too type of stuff, which if it really did happen to you, this is not about you, right? But looking at how we use language to foster this these things that turn out bad in the end. I don't know how to name it, but these things that don't turn out well. And then what seems to happen to me is we just sort of change it up and switch it up, and we don't ever go back and say, okay, we need to start teaching our children not to do this. We can see the results of this. We need to start teaching it. It just morphs into something else.
Yeah.
In my opinion, what do you say to that?
So yes, I would say, okay, so let's go back, right? And I'll use Me Too as an example.
Yeah.
But it also still goes back to what you said about teaching. Is a lot of things that I saw when I was a child, right? That was commonplace when I was a child. When I became an adult, I look back on it and I was like, oh, that wasn't right. Right. And so
like what? If you don't gotta give names,
so yeah.
But
No. So like when I was a kid, right? Like grabbing a girl butt, smacking a girl in the butt, like that was considered commonplace, right? In a neighborhood and in in the community, not even just Black, right? Period.
Yeah.
And so then when I became an adult, right? And I was like, oh, that wasn't oh, that should not have happened.
Okay.
But it's also one of the things of if I don't know, if I didn't know whether you're older or not, like age doesn't depict wisdom or maturity. So they might not have known either, especially because most people live their entire life in, one area in the same community. So there really is uh, there is no teaching for the most part anyway. It's really just expectations and figure it out. Then when you don't have anything different, I better sum it up. So I went to this church event.
Okay.
And the pastor there said everyone that's in the same group has the same handicap. And I was like, that's crazy. Because essentially what he was saying, if we're all in the same group, right, we're only interacting with each other. So if I can't see it, you can't see it, no one else can see it. So then we all have the same handicap because we're only used to each other.
Okay. So, okay. I would have said that differently than the pastor said it, but now I understand what he meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody who looks through the same lens sees the same thing.
Yes.
That's how I would have said that. Because being in the same group, no, you don't have the same handicap. But that's what he meant, though.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, so he was essentially saying, like, if you've been in the same place for so long.
Right. Echo chamber. It's like being.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
But I actually like what you said better. But yes. And so you look at that inside any community. Right. And then people get out and you don't really know when someone begins to understand what's right and what's wrong, regardless of who you used to be. Right. Like maturity happens and it doesn't happen all at once. Like, thinking, like your maturity and thinking changes or grows at a different rate than social development. Then, even just how you view yourself and the people around you, right? Your interpretations and your ability to understand is also, at a different rate. And so the missing link in all this is teaching. Like, how many people actually that are able to sit down with their parents or grandparents, and those people are able to say, when I was a kid, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And this is, like the 60s weren't that far ago.
Right.
like there are a whole lot of people still alive.
Right.
But we still have yet to have that conversation. And very few people even do have that conversation of what this was.
Mm-hmm. Or it's very ill-timed, like way too late, or stuff like that, and I think, at least when it comes to the Black community, fatherlessness also plays a huge role in that, because there's been an epidemic of fatherlessness since like the 80s with the crack and stuff, like
right.
A huge fatherlessness problem for a long time now, decades.
And so, and even add that into it, right? So now we're looking at who's going to teach you,
Right.
right?
Who's even there to do the teaching,
Who,
right?
and do they even know?
Mm-hmm.
Because, especially if you come from a small town, what are they telling you? You get high school, get to college, you get out, don't come back here. And the people, when you go back, you're like, oh, this is different. This ain't, you experience something new and faster, right? It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look back on, and you look at the people that are still there, and their actions are the same. Their thinking is the same. And so then now you don't really know how to communicate to them what you now understand. And really, I mean, listen, man, most people don't want to know. Like most people, and I guess this goes to your point about servitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people want to be served, but they don't want to serve, right?
Yeah, they don't either they don't want to earn it or they don't want to serve themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's true because and I think that's because of what I was talking about before, the this sort of resistance to hard work, and there's the resistance to did I say that with you? Maybe I said that in the last recording, but I said this either with you or with a different episode who I recorded today, the same day.
Yeah.
There's a resistance to working hard because we have, first of all, microwave instant gratification
Mm-hmm.
Pornhub culture that right here, right now, give me right now on my terms when I ask for it type of culture, which is a natural consequence of comfort. It's not a
Right.
bad thing, but we do have to know about it and keep it in check and know some of the psychology behind how it works in order to not get stuck. But what it breeds is this like there's a thing right now talking about language called quiet quitting. Have you heard of that? Quiet
I
quitting.
have, yeah.
It's new. But the actions of it aren't new. What quiet quitting actually is doing the bare minimum at work because you don't feel like going above and beyond for however much you're being paid under the
Right. The
guise of
appreciation factor.
yeah, under the guise of setting healthy boundaries and not building up somebody else's dream. But that's not it. That's just the disguise of it. What it actually is a touch of laziness meeting sort of this culture of instant gratification, no patience, no with the resistance to working hard and going and 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 working hard without knowing if it's going to amount to something big, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at examples of great people, they all worked there is not one person that's great that didn't work hard without knowing if it was ever going to amount to anything for a long time. There's not one great out there that didn't do that. But we have a resistance to doing it, and again, with this morphing of language and like how people talk about stress is another example of the same thing. Um, People talk about stress all day long. Every single day, there's a new way to talk about stress and burnout and these things. These things are normal and natural when you're working hard towards a worthy goal, worthy in your opinion goal, whoever you are, right? When you're working hard towards a goal, it's supposed to hurt. You're supposed to get burned out sometimes. You're supposed to get burned out sometimes and then still show up the next day. You know what I'm saying? That's a part of what makes getting the victory worth it and meaningful. That's what gives life meaning. But we talk about stress in a way that like there's no good stress. There's good stress.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's good pain. There's good suffering. Even though it sounds maybe a little counterintuitive, it's not. In reality, you don't get the real happiness without the real pain. That's what makes you happy is the real pain.
Well,
I don't
yeah.
know why
Well,
I went on
so
that tangent, but yeah, I'm sure you get what I meant.
yeah. Well, So to go along with that, right? I think there are two things in there. I don't necessarily think that people, let's say, are allergic to working hard. I think the difference is, what are you working hard for? Right? So, of course, some of the more accomplished people, they go and they go and they go until they accomplish it, right? But most people are working towards what? They're just working to work.
Well, I slightly disagree with that. And again, I'm not going to pull you into a debate, but
No.
Working hard to make sure that you keep air conditioning in the house that you're going to raise your children is a worthy goal if that's what you like,
Right.
if that's what you enjoy. And I think we have a skewed perception of, like I said a second ago, of what happiness really is. Because like people think that they're working so that one day they can be happy. But no, the happiness should come from the inside out. It should be a part of your understanding of why you are working hard, why you are experiencing hardships. And experiencing hardships is also looked at in a skewed way, because when we explain that we're experiencing burnout, we're usually doing so, that explaining, in a moment that's not burnout. So most of the day is neutral. There are periods of time where it's intensely bad. There are periods of time where it's intensely good. Most of your time on earth is doing the work, and it's very neutral. And when you feel super tired, that's when I feel super tired. But the way we talk about it is, I had such a stressful week. I had such a stressful day. I had this. We don't think about it through reality. We think about it through victimhood. And so I slightly disagree with the notion that people aren't working for anything. Like, no, like it wasn't very long ago, like you said, the 60s and stuff, and let's say, 30s and 40s. It wasn't very long ago that living the way that poor people in this country live was a goal, of people wearing suits every day and dresses and ironing their shit and right looking the part. They were
Right.
working hard so that they can live how some people in the hood live today. And I don't mean in terms of their behavior, I just mean in
No.
terms of the stuff that they have. You know what I mean? They
Right.
have hella clothes and hella shoes, and all of that was a dream. All this comfort that we have. And so, yeah, working hard to maintain that and to maybe one day raise a family in that, so that you can pass on good values to your offspring, and they can spread that to the community, as a part of your legacy. That is a worthy goal, my opinion. And I think that should be a shared opinion, at least with some people.
Yeah.
God, but I know something. You feel me?
Yeah. No. And so yes, right. And I think a lot of times where the miscommunication, or at least the disconnect comes in, is everyone has their own path to reaching that,
Yeah.
right? And so I use myself, right? For me, fulfillment is doing what I want to do, right? Now, have I done things that I had to do? Absolutely, because necessity to me comes before want, right? Then after necessity, I'm going to do what I want to do, because freedom is important to me, right? The freedom to choose, autonomy, means a lot to me. And so that means if I'm in a job and I feel, or not even I feel, right? If there's a conflict between me and a coworker, regardless of the position, right? To me, you're a person first. So we're going to have a conversation.
Right.
And then that'll be that, right? If I'm having a job and I don't feel accomplished, well, I won't even say accomplished. If I feel like it's going nowhere for me, if I'm not being fulfilled by it, right? I'll leave it, and then I'll come back and I'll say, okay, what about that job wasn't fulfilling for me? What was? And then let's go forth from there. So a lot of times, so not for everyone, right? I don't want to put everybody in the same, because we all have our own reasons, but
fair enough, my good man.
So for me, right, if I leave, if I quit, it's about, okay, I've been here, I know it's time to go for me. Now, what can I take from this and go forward with, right? So I was a personal trainer. I love the people. I didn't love the sales aspect of it. It's not that I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it because that took a lot out of me. So, okay, so I quit. Then I moved on to just being a fitness professional where I didn't have to sell anything, right?
Okay.
So I moved, my vision for myself became more clear. So then I left fitness altogether because I still love helping people, but I didn't want to do it in the gym, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So my initial reason for going to the gym is because I like to work out. Listen, man, I'm married. I got a kid now. Wow, bro, I ain't worried about working out. Like, so that changes. My want changes. My environment changes, or where I want to be changes. So then it goes into, okay, well, how, if I love helping people, what's the next step on that? Well, let me write a book. So I'll write a book, right? After that, it's, well, I got out what I had to say, but now I want to be able to expound on that, right? Because you can read, we can all read something and we all get, a million different interpretations from it, which is still good because ultimately, like, you process what you process and how you process, but somebody might want something more. So then, okay, so the book, I've got the book out, it's limiting for me. So now I want to start speaking. So what's the next step for that then? I don't know. Let me see. Okay, a podcast, the next step for that, right? Now, again, this is me going backwards, right? Now, if you're just looking at it when I was at, this gym and I quit, that's all you see.
Absolutely. Right. No, I
And
get
so
you.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
what you take in.
Right.
And so it's
The
not
point.
necessary. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, real quick. Because I just want to clarify something, and then because I get what I think I get what you're saying. The point is definitely not to stay somewhere that's unfulfilling, that you feel like you're wasting your talents at, and you're not, if you're not appreciated at all, and that's a real thing. It's not just some sort of excuse or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, go somewhere else or create something new for yourself. The point that I was getting at, and that I was sort of that ties into what I said about people shying away from hard work, is that no matter where you're at, what you want will determine the intensity of the hard to get
Yeah.
itness. No
Right.
matter where you go, or if you choose to create your own, no matter what it is, what you want determines how hard it's going to be. And so if you just want to maintain a nice, comfortable, stable lifestyle for yourself and your kids, then that's going to be a certain level of intensity and difficulty to get there. Exceptions to the rule always exist, but for the most
Right.
part,
Right.
for the
Right.
most people, that's going to be the thing. If you want super huge, millionaire success, billionaire success, whatever, you want to be the next Amazon, Jeff Bezos, then that's going to take what it's going to take. It's going to take a whole lot of people skills, networking skills. It's going to take a team, multiple teams, really, by the time you get there, right? It's going to be more difficult, more things that you have to overcome, and more work that you're going to have to do in your heart in order to achieve that. Again,
Mm-hmm.
exceptions to the rule, right? And speaking of exceptions to the rule for that second one, most times when wealth is just inherited, it's wasted.
Yeah.
I don't remember the statistics on it in terms of the percentages, but most people that inherit huge sums of wealth, once the patriarch dies off and they're left with all of that wealth, it doesn't last generations and generations. It's usually wasted away because they don't have the value of coming from the bottom. Now we here. They don't have the value of creating that. And so they don't love it the same as the one who created it. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, exceptions to the rule, but that's
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that I definitely don't want to sound like as long as you have a house, you should just keep your job.
Oh yeah.
That's
No. No.
stupid.
No. No.
But as you expand and as you grow and as you create new stuff for yourself, you got to understand, like, it's not about trying to find the easiest way to maintain yourself, because that's not sustainable. You have to come to grips with the world is not fair and it's not easy,
Right.
but it is worth it. And life is beautiful if you can get past sort of some of the mental blocks, the ego-based blocks that we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. No, so I agree with you. I think my point was a lot of people today, right? Because I don't think that truly we can compare, today to like 40 years ago, like
Right.
adults 40 years
We can't.
ago.
Right.
But today, I would say a lot of people like the quiet quitting thing. Like I think part of that is appreciation, right? Because I guess now we have to bring the past in, right? There's no future without the past. A lot of stuff that our parents, grandparents, and all that stuff had to do had nothing to do with appreciation, right? It was about this is necessary. So I'm going to put a lot of emotion aside. I'm going to put a lot of feeling aside. I'm going to put a lot of things, pride and ego aside to do what's necessary, right? And so off those people backs, right? Off their backs gave us ego, gave us pride, or at least allowed us
Yeah.
to
It gave us
show,
comfort, which is the birthplace
right?
of too much ego and too much pride. Absolutely.
And so, but to go along with that
Mm-hmm.
was, but it didn't give us direction.
Right.
And so what I was trying to say at least is like I think not everyone, not
Right.
everybody,
Exceptions. Right. Right.
right?
Exceptions
There,
abound.
there are people that's like, listen, I want the easiest life possible. Yes, but I think a lot of people quit, at least of now, especially like with pandemic and stuff like that, because they realize one that they don't have to do it. Like a lot of people do things because they feel like they have to, or like it's the only way. And that's not true, right? And so, hey man, a near-death experience or the possibility of death changes everybody. And so now you're saying, okay, I've never liked this job, right? And if I don't know if I'm gonna die tomorrow or not, let me at least try something that I want to do. And that might be what happened.
Oh, well, quiet quitting doesn't involve actually quitting. Do you know
Oh,
that?
no, no, no.
They're just
But that's my
oh,
thing. That's what I'm saying about appreciation, though. Like
oh, yeah, okay,
I'm
right,
not
okay,
appreciated.
okay, yeah.
So if I'm not appreciated, I'm not going to work hard. At least I'm going to do the bare minimum because I know you don't appreciate me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in positions show that because they also don't know how to. They're not great managers of people, right?
Right, but I mean that's your choice. You are you not meaning Joseph. You meaning
Nah, yeah.
anybody. You are free to choose to be mediocre. If you don't feel appreciated and you're going to express that experience via not going above and beyond because of your feelings of appreciation and what should be in the world that you want to live in, you are free to
Mm-hmm.
do so. But actions come with consequences. Human beings
Okay.
love actions and hate the consequences or try to avoid them. You can't avoid a long term you can't avoid the consequences of a long term action. It's not going to happen. So
Right.
if you are choosing to do the bare minimum, you're going to live a mediocre life, and that's your choice. Sure, but most people say they don't want mediocrity, and they're not mediocre. And so with this, and again, doing the bare minimum, and because you don't feel appreciated is not new. It's
No,
just
no,
this
not at all.
quiet quitting word has suddenly sprung up because again there's this whole craze of I'm so stressed all the time. It's like, do you see what I mean? There's no room for
Yeah.
actual growth when we start talking like that. That's my fear. We don't leave
Yeah.
room for actual real facing hard times and then overcoming them in terms of growth and personal development. That's missing for me in the quiet quitting and the always stressed out and all of these ways to talk about burnout and all of these things.
No, so I do agree with that, right? Partially, but again, right? I think at least
Because
this is
it's
to
like
me, right?
focusing on the problem. Eh,
Yeah, but so what I was going to say is yes, on a smaller level, I think that's simply because there are no. Well, I'm not going to say that. We, generally speaking, don't have great teachers, right?
Yeah, I agree.
To help us process these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, man, I looked up and I married a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she can help me get through things
Right.
that I wouldn't have got through without her, right? Generally speaking, most people don't have this.
Right.
It's not even generally speaking. Most people don't have it,
Right. Absolutely.
right? We don't have people that can help us process things. We don't have people that can help us learn new things and be able to interpret it in a way that's meaningful and beneficial for us. But we know how to, we do know how to say ouch, right? We do know how to
Yeah,
complain.
we say that
We
nice and
do.
loud. Yeah.
Like, we know how to be victims and we know how to be aggressors.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also like, that's the American way, truly. So really, like, we're living the American way, and that's either be one side or the other. And very few people, well, I think very few people understand that there is a neutral, like you were saying, that there's a neutral, but we don't account for the neutral because it's neutral.
We don't even remember it. Like we
Right.
go through the day, what we remember when we reflect on the day is the intensities, intense goods and intense bads.
Yeah. And so because of that, we listen, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Ultimately, I think, listen, do whatever you want, right? If you're willing to accept what happens next, then I say do whatever you want, right? But we still need teachers, right? And who's going to do it? I don't know. Like, and I feel that if I'm not willing to do it, right, then realistically, I can't ask someone else to do it unless I know that they're willing to, right? It's like asking someone to fight for you when you don't want to fight, but you started it, right?
Right. Yes. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing. Because we say, okay, first of all, we applied for the job. Just we can even take it to the student loans thing, which is a hot topic right now. We apply for the loan.
yeah,
We enroll in the school and apply for
FAFSA.
FAFSA or FAFSA, one of those two. And we apply for the loan and we get the loan. We get this check. And we chose that. Then we say, somebody come fight this battle for me. I don't want to fight it. It's like, no, man, that's you it's not how it works. if I mean, imagine, right, any other creature in the animal kingdom, like imagine a chimpanzee starting a fight and then trying to say, hold on, I'm gonna go get my big brother. No, you're not gonna make it because we can ready to get it on
Right,
right now. The world, I'm making light of it, but the world doesn't work how we are trying to make it work sometimes. And it's and again, I don't think it teaches the right message about like what growth is all about and what hardship is all about at the end of the day. Like hardship is a good thing when you make life is what you make it, they always used to say. When
right.
you make the things that you go through that are painful into good things, you live a good life.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah.
okay.
No, it's just and you're not gonna avoid bad things.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Maybe like a couple of months ago, I was thinking, I was like, man, like our parents and like that generation, aunts and uncles, like they had so many sayings that was just like wisdom, right? So something that like my aunts and my grandmother would say is, what you eat don't make me shit, right? And as a kid, like I didn't get it.
Right.
But then when I became an adult, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. But like we don't have that anymore. Like we are now that generation that's supposed to provide the wisdom we're supposed to teach, but we don't. One, because, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? But there's a problem. So one, we want to be individuals, partly because when we were part of a group, right? When we were part of a community, we weren't treated as such, right? We're treated as some of the group, right? And not as a whole. And so for a lot of people, because of that, they felt belittled, which, there's nothing, if you felt that way, you felt that way, right? Don't apologize for feelings. And then so you go and you search for who you are, right? Ideally, right? You search for who
who
you
you want to
are,
be. Mm-hmm.
right? And then what happened is, or what happens, what's happening now is we forget that we still need to go back to the community.
Yeah. Well, and that's a little layered because
Yeah,
we
it
don't
is.
have, well, what used to be our communities are not communities,
Right. Yeah.
right? Everybody's in
Internet.
their own place with the door
Mm-hmm.
closed and locked, and that's it. In a lot of places now, but yeah, I mean that's a layered one right there, brother. Because
Absolutely.
in terms of how to deal with poverty, and as a matter of fact, on our topic too, maybe this will be the last one we bring up. Um, there's the conservative and the progressive different views on how we deal with poverty, how we lift people out of poverty. The kind of progressive side says give people money, give people, um, give homeless people houses.
Mm-hmm.
The conservative side is give people opportunity, give people, give homeless people, let's say especially those struggling with addiction, a way to earn their keep with the ultimatum: this program will be taken away if you don't stay with the basically if you cheat on your program and you go back to
Right.
the
Right.
drugs. You know what I'm
Consequences for
saying?
sure.
And we can see there was a short, it was like 20-minute documentary that I saw on homelessness, and they looked at cities with crazy high homelessness like Austin, Texas, um, and others, right? And they saw that when programs came in that was like that tried to do good but the wrong way. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, in Austin, there was a program that made camping on the sidewalk legal again, right? Where the police couldn't just come and snatch you up and say you're going to the shelter or you're going to jail anymore. Which that's harsh, but check it out. Camping on the side was made legal again. People fled out of the shelters and went back to the street because that's where the drugs are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you trying to show compassion, but it's kind of like the looking at like beat your kids or not. And beat is a very very cancery word now.
Whoop.
Spank,
Right.
yeah, what
Spanking. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
tap the bottom, whatever. I don't know. Of
Yeah.
your kids, or not to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and and how that correlates with respect and not not tyranny and authoritarian tyranny, but
Right.
respect of authority in the correct way, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
How those things correlate. Not all children should be beat for every little thing. Never, never, never would I advocate for that. But working in the school system, in the generations with the generations where this wave of parents were just super anti touch my kid, I saw negative things that probably could have been nipped in the bud with a spanking.
Mm-hmm.
with a hard consequence that didn't leave welts and stuff on their back. Nothing crazy. It's like people, it's you start to say things that make sense, and people try to take your words and go to the extreme. And
Right.
as a podcaster, I'm kind of conscious of that. You know what I'm saying? But extreme examples to the side, some of these behaviors should be addressed by the parents before they get to school.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? They're definitely doing this at home if they're doing it to this degree at school. You may do something a little more
absolutely.
intense at school, but you're not doing nothing that you're not doing at home in school. And so if it's
Right.
completely not allowed at home, it probably won't make it to school. Probably. Right? There's a small percentage of children who will be sociopathic and psychopathic. Other than that, or a pathological liar. Those children do exist. But for the most part, a lot of these things, if the rhetoric was, whatever, and then yeah, like some parents take it too far. Like, well, okay, do we tell parents that I'm gonna arrest you if your child says that you spanked me? Or if your child it be very easy for a child to get their parent convicted of child abuse? Should that be super easy? Or should that be difficult to prove on behalf of the child? It's a slippery slope either way, because
Right. Yeah.
with too much freedom, now people whose brains are not developed are leading the parameters of parenting. And with the other extreme, kids are being abused. So
Yeah. There is no perfect map, man. like, and that's really the biggest thing, right? There's no perfect map. Um, Listen, man. I'm the youngest of three, right? My grandmother would whoop us, but I'm like, you know what? Hey, man. But for me, it's like, okay. But also, she taught us accountability,
mm-hmm.
right?
I
So
taught you a lot of
she
things. Yeah.
she allowed us. She's like, listen, if you do this, this is going to happen. Or sometimes she wouldn't even say that. She was just like, go ahead and see what happens, right? And so that taught us accountability and responsibility. Now, as a parent, do I spank my kids? No. One, it's just not who I am, right? But am I still with accountability and responsibility? Oh, absolutely. It just looks different, right? And so on a grand scale, right? I mean, it's hard. Like, how can anyone, even with legislation, right? How can anyone govern, or even a group of people govern, 350 million people? Only thing you can do is what they're doing now, entertain, right? On a on a corporate scale, right? Business. Hey, man, give them sugar, put these videos on. 'Cause parents ain't parenting, so they go do whatever we tell them to do videos. If the parents go do it too, they don't know either.
I'm not even gonna comment on that. Yeah. But yes.
Right. So it's you can't, right? And that also goes back to what you were saying, like the community isn't what it was 25, 30 years ago. It's not now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was by design, really,
Mm-hmm.
right? But well, I mean, yeah, Houston. Listen, if there's like we do like a black market, right?
Mm-hmm.
A black farmers market, right? You get a whole bunch of people together. Black, white, it don't matter. Like everybody
Oh, yeah.
comes
Mm-hmm.
for this thing, right? And so that's community for a sense, right? But we live all over the place, right? So even traveling is different because I can easily pick up and go live, 2,000 miles from here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't grow up in the neighborhood that I live in now. This is actually a new neighborhood. And so there are no roots for me here. Just like for most people, there are no roots. So if there are no roots, then you can give them anything they want because they don't have a foundation. They don't have a foundation of self, one, or of community. So you go do whatever I tell you to do if I show it to you long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then even on a like from a political scale, right and left wing, it's still these are the lawmakers that really aren't affected by it. The actual people that are affected by what's going on, right? What are your thoughts on it? Most people don't even have thoughts on it because we don't want to engage in it. And so then we'll never really come up with a plan. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of what you choose, somebody's going to feel slighted, right?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's life, man. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
life's not fair. It'll never be fair, right? But at some point, accountability for yourself first, and then for the people that you put around you. For what you do, for what you watch, for what you say, like all that stuff matters. You can't listen. It's impossible to pick a perfect plan for anything.
Right.
You just pick what you think is best and you hope it works out, but you put forth your greatest effort.
I just think in terms of the poverty and the children thing, that it's not a good idea long term, right? To teach that the world is this super safe place and that people are all the same, and
Yeah,
and that absolutely everybody is to be trusted, with your with your with your kids, or with your money, or with your this and that,
right. Yeah,
because now it also not a good idea long term to teach that everybody is an oppressor and everybody's racist and everybody's sexist and everybody has way more privilege
right.
than you and everybody's going to put a glass ceiling on top of your head. That's not good either. So yeah. But what I think we've been doing is saying, like, let's say, the black community, I don't want to change my behavior until the government gives me free shit. And I don't think that's, and first of all, nothing's free. People are going to be taxed for
Right.
that,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
not fair. So not that the world is fair, but just, we do want to get somewhere near fairness, right? We want to get somewhere kind of close to fairness. That's where we want. That's a
yeah.
better situation than just um, bailouts and free checks, I'll say. Uh,
Yeah.
like even reparations, in terms of, like, if it came in the form of a check, it would, my opinion, y'all, it would definitely do more harm than good for just a check.
I
Like,
agree.
let's say, because first of all, reparations would have to be a pretty big check. So let's say everybody gets 60 $70,000
Right.
instantaneously. Well, not everybody. Black people all get $70,000, every single one of us. That would be horrible right now with our behavior, our culture, or our cultural choices, and our general outrage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like we, you know, um, I'll save my opinions on the movement and organization of Black Lives Matter for another episode. But we did destroy a lot. We did. It's the evidence was there, and is
Right.
still there in some places. We did destroy a lot. And so if we suddenly had money to just buy guns legally and do certain things, we would do it. Like, I think we would do it, and it would not be good. Like, the revolution would be televised, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't win, because right, too much anger and outrage is not going to actually solve the problem if it's not backed by very, very good organization and very, very forward thinking. So so in terms
Yeah.
of the poverty thing, and like what to teach the children, I think we definitely have to balance between telling people there are lions out there, and also telling people, here's how you be a good person. Here's how you keep your inner lion in check, but also build yourself up in a way that if you have to use your inner lion, you can use it usefully and then put it away when the job is done. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback off with that,
Yeah.
I think there are a couple things, right? The decision making. So if you ask someone, where does change start? Some people are going to say the top, some people are going to say the bottom.
I was going to
Right?
say with the individual automatically.
Well, so to me, that's the bottom.
Individuals are at all levels. So I was going to say,
Well,
you're right. People would automatically go to a group, which goes back to our very first point. That's kind of, I didn't even think like that until you said some people would say at the time, I was like, yeah, that is how most people would probably answer that. I would say individual, but yeah. Anyway, sorry to cut in, bro.
Oh, no, you're good. So when I say bottom, I mean individual, right? When I say top, I mean like government, corporation, that stuff, right? Because essentially everything trickles down.
Okay.
Right? Now, we've seen if enough people band together, we can get things changed, right? But again, if you ask people where does it start, some say the top, some say the bottom, and then responsibility, right? The biggest thing to me, and this is people, and this is even going backwards, most people have a problem with responsibility. A lot of people want power. A lot of people want to give direction. They want to have a view, right? But they have a problem with responsibility. And so most of the time, the people that say the top also have a problem with responsibility. You say you're in the school system, responsibility, right? These kids are given to the school system to be raised. Every situation is different, right? Some parents work their tail off just to try to provide, right? And some don't, right? So every situation is different, but it still leads to the school raising kids. An underfunded school. Teachers aren't getting paid what they should be getting paid. The school system in a lot of places, unless it's in a wealthy neighborhood or wealthy community, it only works for a certain group of people and maybe for no one really.
If I had any, I wouldn't put them in public school right now, not in this country.
Yeah. So, I know like people are people, man. Like I don't believe that if you're given a check, right? Time of reparations, if you're given a check for $70,000, it's not going to change you. You're going to do the same thing you would do if the check was for $500. The same thing you would do if you didn't get the check at all, right? And also, man, listen, financial literacy is a real thing that most people don't have.
Yep.
So teaching, man, I can't stress teaching just life, period, is so important.
I always say the real currency at the end of the day is information. Because what you do with what you have depends on the information that you have been exposed to.
Yeah, but it's also, to go with that, it's the intention, right? Because a lot of people, and they've done a couple
how you even
articles
formulate your intentions is based on the information. It's information is the real currency. Like that's the foundation of everything is information.
Well, so what I'm saying is a lot of people seek information and now they just have an abundance of information and that's it. Too much information is also a problem. So my intention in the sense of why are you seeking it and what do you want to do with it? Not just like, oh, the government is doing this. Let me look at all these sources and all these papers and all these videos, right? And now you're frozen in time with all this information playing through your mind. And you have nothing to do because you had no intention really to do something with the information.
So information, the way that I was using it goes beyond words.
Okay.
Information is also experience, intuition, wisdom, and the
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that help you execute your plans. Excuse me, the things with which you execute your plans. So all of that is also information. Even energy, like right? Energy is also information. When you feel a
Oh, for
certain
sure.
way, you interpret it because it's information. That's what energy is. So that's what I mean. So I'm
Okay.
using the
Uh,
broadest and highest, I guess, sense of the word information. But you're right. Yeah, no, too much. Like you talking about, like people just trivia facts and fucking.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
about how to do math really well. And it's like, okay, well, are you going to use that? Are you going to
Right.
invent something? Is like no, but your actual real experience and the wisdom and all of that is also with the facts.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the information and processing, and
all of that.
yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Never mind it.
So
Yes, what you
so
said.
that conglomerate of
Yes.
of ways to interpret the word information, that is the real currency.
Yes. Absolutely,
Yeah. Joseph Holmes. Thank
sir.
you for coming through the show, man. This definitely was a productive conversation. Would love to have you back on the show whenever. Um, Obviously, both of us are thinkers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Is what I said in the message. And where can people find you at first?
Oh man, don't limit God. DNT LMTGD. Don't limit God. All consonants, no vowels, one word. On social media and YouTube. Yeah, man, that's
Don't
it.
what me, God?
Don't limit God.
Don't limit God. Okay.
Yes.
DNT
Yeah.
LMT GD.
And so to piggyback off of that, so essentially, don't limit God means what you said about information, right? The
Ah,
whole conglomerate of
yeah,
information.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't limit info.
Yeah.
Word.
Right. And so, it's all that, right? Language.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
language
yeah,
is
yeah.
God, right? But you can have your own language and what that means to you.
I
But
heard
essentially it's the
I,
same.
I heard someone say all known words are synonyms for God. And
Uh,
at first my ego tried to argue with that. It was like, well, okay, devil. But then it's like, okay, well, actually, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean,
yeah.
and then it's like, okay, nail gun. But then you really, really think about it, and it's like, yeah, I can't say
Yeah.
it's not God because I mean, where did it come from? Where did the image of whoever invented the nail gun come from? Had to come to mind before it came to life. So
Right.
if God is infinite, how much of God lives in you?
Hey, listen, some people would say you are God. So but that's really the point of it, right?
Yeah,
Is
don't limit
listen,
God. Yeah,
I have my own view, I have my own relationship, but so does everyone else.
yeah,
Right. And so at the end of the day, if I can look at your roots and I know where your roots are, and you know where mine are, it don't matter how I say it, you know where I'm coming from, and vice versa.
right,
So agree or disagree,
right. Yeah, man.
spirit, energy, like all that, like we understand.
Did you say which platforms they can search for
Oh,
that?
it's on all, man.
All of okay. Yeah.
YouTube,
You
Spotify, all
got
that stuff.
TikTok?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
35 with a TikTok? No, I'm messing with you.
This is the thing. I
I
got one
got
like
one.
a
Don't
month ago. Got one like a month ago.
Cool. So don't you? It would not be the Expression of Love podcast if I didn't ask you what is love to you at this stage of your life.
Man, love. To me, love is the finishing touch, right? Meaning all the things that I'm doing now, I was going to do them regardless, right? In a relationship, right? In my marriage, I was going to be the same person I am now. But love being a finishing touch makes me go a little bit more, listen a little bit harder and intently, right? Be a little bit more understanding, be a little bit more compassionate. because of
I
love. So
like
love
that.
to me is the finishing touch.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I define love right now as the meeting place or the coming together of true understanding and joy.
Mm,
They come together. I like that though. I like that, and I get all types of answers, right? Obviously, but
yeah.
I like that. The finishing touch. That's poetic.
Hey man, listen, I got a book of
What I
poetry
feel
too.
like. Did you steal that from Andre 3000? Like that was that was dope.
No.
That was dope. I put a rap verse into all of my episodes. That's definitely going in there. Consider that
Okay.
stolen, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for coming through again, man. It's been a
All right,
pleasure.
my pleasure.
Expressions of